Hi everyone, and welcome back to Balkan, the show that's going to help you navigate the massive challenges of life, motherhood, culture, identity, and belonging with more ease, acceptance, joy, and purpose. Thanks to each and every one of you that come back every time to listen, learn, heal, and feel inspired. If you do love the podcast, then do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. It really does help spread the word. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Balkan. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you've had an amazing start to 2023. We all know that when the new year hits, we set really, really unrealistic resolutions for ourselves. And I thought today would be the perfect time to introduce a fantastic episode with Leonita from Nita Nutrition. She's somebody that I've really looked up to for a long time. She's also a fellow podcast host for BOTA podcast. She's also a professional nutritionist and a dietitian. And I thought, what a better time to have her on as a guest, because when we all start the new year, what do we all do? This year, I'm going to get really, really healthy. This year, I'm going to eat better. This year, I'm going to move better. I'm going to blah, 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 X, Y, Z. And, I like to think of it just in more sustainable ways. So I don't set any New Year resolutions for myself. I just want to live my life. I just want to enjoy myself. So I don't like to restrict myself. I also don't like to overindulge. So yeah, I try and keep things balanced. But we all know as mums, as women, that can be really, really difficult to do. Also, regardless of where you live, time moves really fast. Society is really quick. We all driving more, moving less. And yeah, I just thought, what a great time to have Leonita on as a guest. She's got 3 beautiful children, and she runs a couple of businesses. She just has so much on her plate, and she still made time to talk with me. And also we have almost like a 16-hour time difference because she lives in America. So I was really excited to talk to her today. And yeah, we talk just about so many different things. Obviously, we chat a little bit about our Balkan heritage, about where she's from, what she's about, where she grew up, and how that impacted what she does today, and why she's passionate about helping people with their nutrition and with their wellness. And we really talk about it more in a holistic approach. We really talk about how our current modern day world doesn't facilitate, healthy eating. It doesn't facilitate moving slowly, the power of slowing down. There's so many things that we talk about. We talk about illnesses. We talk about preventative measures. I honestly could have talked to her for days and days, like hours and hours. There's just so much I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about having low iron. I wanted to talk about symptoms of hair falling out. We talk about postpartum. After you have your child, we just talk about that busy woman hustling. We also talk about, just the lack of quality of life us women have, and how we accept feeling like shit just as something basic for ourselves. We just think, oh, well, we're just meant to be tired all the time. That's life, right? But yeah, that's completely wrong. And there's so many little things that we can do to help ourselves on a everyday basis. So Leonita gives some really, really, really great tips. What you could eat in a day, the variety we need to have, just also how to rest better, how to more mindfully consume our food and our water, how to properly hydrate ourselves, not just with water, not just with H2O. There's so many things that we can mix to help our body balance and feel better. And yeah, really just the power of slowing down. I think that's a big one because the new year starts, and I think we all just think, bang, it's like it's like a rocket. It's like, yep, this year's going to be my year. I'm going to attack the year. I'm going to do this, that. But I think there's just so much power in slowing down and being mindful and sitting with ourselves and doing just one little thing at a time. We talk about autoimmune diseases. We talk about where they come from. We talk about our culture and our heritage, and also survival mode, and how that impacts our nervous system, how the nervous system then in return impacts our appetite and what we choose to put on our plate. And yeah, we really connect all the dots in this conversation. Like I said, there's so much more I could have talked to her about, and there's so many more questions I wanted to ask her. But just make sure that you follow her social media pages. She gives really good tips. And there's wonderful opportunities to work with her as well, one-on-one, doing one-on-one coaching if you need help. So please, if you are struggling, reach out. You know, we're a community, and community is medicine. We're not meant to do anything by ourselves on our own. And that's why, yeah, I called my Facebook group Ivana's Village, because it's literally a village. I want to build a village for us women to feel better, you know, to have more clarity in our life, and just to smile and laugh more. And we can't do that if we're feeling run down and sluggish and burnt out. So yeah, as we enter this new year, I just wish you guys a lot of good health, and you know, just to slow down. It's okay. Life's not a race. It's a marathon. And I hope that today's conversation helps you connect back to yourself, and that you can just make small, mindful actions, you know, for your body, your mind, and your spirit. Enjoy it. I really love today's talk. I hope you get a lot out of it. And Leonita's just so fabulous and so awesome. And if you love this conversation, please share it with your friends and your family. You never know who we could help. There's little things that she talks about, just very small changes, subtle changes we can even just make today. And that's how it starts. You know, it's just like building a house, just one brick after another. So thank you, Leonita. Thanks for being today's guest. Thank you for listening, no matter where you are. I've had listeners all over the world. Literally, there's people in Sweden, in Germany, in Austria, in Canada, in America. I can't believe it. So please reach out, connect with me, because I'm just sitting here in my little office doing this thing, you know, that I love, that I'm passionate about. And I love connecting with, you know, people from our heritage and our background and our culture. And we're just so smart, and we're so multi-talented. There's so much that we do. And yeah, I just want to connect more with that, and I want to share that. I don't want to keep this knowledge to myself, and I just want to, yeah, help other mums do the same. So if you love this conversation, please go to your Apple Podcasts or go to your Spotify, hit the little subscribe button or share the chat. Write me a little Instagram message as well, jump on there, and I'd love to connect with you. And thank you, Leonita. Yeah, I loved it. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, guys. Dosta od mene. I've got so many more fabulous guests lined up, and so many amazing conversations that I want to have this year. And I hope that, yeah, this year for you has started in the best possible way, because it's truly what you deserve. And can't wait to come back on the airwaves again in the next episode. Mwah. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy. Ciao. To have a fabulous guest that I'm fangirling on at the moment. I really am. She is a mum of 3. She is a professional, fully qualified weight and wellness dietitian. She's also the producer, the owner of BOTA podcast, which is sort of where it all started, which is where I found you, Leonita. And yeah, that inspired me to start my own podcast and yeah, connect with my own tribe. So I'm finally really excited to have you here. I've been following you for a while, so I'm not a stalker, okay? I just had, yeah, like people that I guess inspire me to do better, to be better. And yeah, you're one of those people. So thanks for making time for me today so that we can chat. I would love for you to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a background story about who you are.
Well, thank you so much, Ivana, for having me. I mean, what you just said, like, I love that we were able to connect through like such a platform, like listening to each other's podcasts and like being like, oh, wow, this person is out there. Like, let's see how we can connect with each other. And that I feel so like grateful that I was kind of like your inspiration. You know, it's really nice to hear. And I'm thankful that I got a chance to be here with you today and talk to you. I'm super excited about this conversation.
Me
Um,
too. Me too. I can't wait. I have so many questions. But first, let's dive into a little bit of your background story,
yeah,
a little bit about
for
your
sure.
heritage.
Yeah, so I'm a Kosovar Albanian and I live in America. So my parents are from Kosovo and they lived there, their whole lives. And around the 70s area, my parents decided to move to Croatia for a little bit of a better life. My dad's whole entire family actually moved there as well. So it was like him and his like seven brothers, three sisters, parents, like the whole family just like got up and moved because they were being targeted by, Serbia and like different like government nationalists and things like that. So in a way they had to like leave to for survival. This is something that I learned like recently. My dad like had never talked about this or like never really mentioned like why they moved out.
I'm
And
not
then recently he
surprised.
opened up to me and he was like, yeah, we were targeted by these people and like we had to really just like leave because they were really my parents or my dad's family was really high up and very popular and they were Christians and like all this other stuff. So it was just like a lot of like turmoil like happening. So they're like, no, let's
Layers,
get into
layers within
drama,
layers. Oh my
layers and
God.
layers that I just
Wow.
recently and I'm like, what? You never told me
Don't
this
you love it
this
when
is
our parents
crazy.
tell us shit in our 30s?
Yeah, I'm
Like, hey, kids.
traumatic stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck? I'm like, people are in jail, people were dead. I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like, what's happening?
Oh.
But it was crazy. So, anyways, they moved to Croatia and they started a really good life there and they loved Croatia. I still have a lot of family that live there. A lot of my uncles, cousins, two of my aunts still live there. Um, so yeah, like they loved it there. My dad loved it there and he ended up going to school, graduating as a lawyer, became a lawyer, ended up becoming a judge. And I was born in Croatia. So I'm I always say like,
What town were
born
you
in
born
Croatia.
in?
I was born in Zagreb.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a fascinating story.
Yeah. So I always like to say like, yeah, I'm this and this. I was born here, but I live in America.
But you
Like
spoke also like you also spoke full Croatian. Like
I
we
probably
all
did. I know
yeah.
my parents for sure do still actually because I have a lot of family that live there and they all speak Croatian and Albanian and English. They're like trilingual. And my parents still speak Croatian, Serbian, Albanian, like
That's
English.
amazing.
So very like a lot of languages going on. And I'm sure I learned a few words when but I came here. So around 2 years old, it was like in the early 89, 90s. Yugoslavian war started going on, a lot of turmoil again. Okay, what are we going to do? And my dad was like, you know what? Maybe we should go to America, kind of live that American dream. He had a brother that was living here and some like other family members. And he was like, do I stay here or do I go there? I was like, he had to decide like what he wanted to do. And he decided that we're going to go to America. So we ended up going to Michigan, Detroit, and my uncle already lived here. So we kind of lived together with him. And it was actually really nice for me, like as a kid. Like I didn't know back then anything. I was just like enjoying life. I had my cousins here, I had my brothers and sisters, my parents. It was like kind of a good transition. We didn't get like separated or anything like that. It wasn't like we were in the middle or like refugees
Yeah.
in that way.
And you were still young enough as well,
Yeah,
which is awesome.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, so it was for me, my childhood was, I always look back, I'm like, I had an amazing childhood. Like we went outside, we would play, like we had cousins, my parents were here. Just, I enjoyed it. I don't know. I always look back and it was a fun time. Um, but as you get older, things change and you just kind of become more aware of yourself and who you are as a person and your body changes and stuff like that. So like my whole childhood growing up, I always had great experience. My dad always pushed us to go to school and be good at school because, he was like the first in his family to do, go to school, graduate college and become a lawyer, do all this
That's
stuff.
awesome.
So he was like really pushed at us. And even the older kids, like my older brother and my sister and my older cousins, when he came to the US, he was like, "What are you guys doing? Like, you guys are failing at school." Like, he was so mad.
Well,
Like, I'm
because
like,
he saw
Yeah.
education as like such a big privilege, and that if
Ye-
you're in a country
Yes.
where you're able to get the education that you
Yeah.
should, because he saw where it can take you and how important it is, especially
Oh
for
my
our
gosh.
people as well. Like
Yeah.
they're all very well schooled, but if you're just not in
Hmm.
the right environment, unfortunately, there's no work.
Yeah.
But then
And
being in a
he
place
like
like
prided
America,
himself. Mhm.
it's like,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? It's like the sky is limitless in a way to a degree. You can sort of create what you want. And it's just that typical, like even migrant experience, isn't it? Like just grabbing the bull by the horns and just coming to this new place and just like riding the shit out of that and just making the most out of it and creating this life for
Exactly.
your children of safety and of security that maybe you didn't get to have back home. So how was it like for you growing up then in America? Like you had this beautiful childhood. When did sort of things start to change, and when did you start to take how did you sort of choose what you wanted to study?
So I think it started kind of like, when you're like a teenager, early teens, and your just body's changing and you're just like maybe looking a little different than other people around you. For me, I was like, more voluptuous, more curvy, things like that. And I would see other like cousins or other people on TV and I'd be like, they're so skinny and like tiny. And like, why am I looking like this? Why do I look a little bit more voluptuous? And I always kind of felt insecure about that. So it was a little bit hard for me to like I had this body image like issue for a little while, but I did sports and I really love being athletic and doing things like that. So I always was, basketball, volleyball, whatever it was. I wanted to stay strong and things like that. But I always had in the back of my mind, like, why can't I just have like small boobs and like small waist kind of thing?
Hmm.
And, as I got into high school, the high school pressures of like to look a certain way, that just built upon me. Like I was like very shy and like kind of like insecure with myself. And also I just didn't know how to take care of myself. Like I didn't know how to eat well. I would eat a lot of like junk food, a lot of like cereals and I didn't eat that much fast food because we didn't have access to it that much. Even though my parents, like my mom would make home cooked meals like stews and like
Hmm.
goulash and like all this other stuff that are like very ethnic foods. I don't know. I just like gravitated towards like a lot of the sweets and like sugary things. And when I look back, I feel like I almost had like some kind of like addiction to like these sugary cereals
Hmm.
and it kind of like messed with my hormones. But at the time, I didn't know that. But it just kinda escalated into these things and then just body image issues, like, am I looking a good way? In the Albanian community, everyone looks gorgeous, right? I like models.
I was just about to ask you, yeah, how the community, because I
Yeah.
know within our Balkan communities, there's this like, it's like this insular community where it's also so awesome, but also so shit at the same time. Because any insecurities you may have about yourself or about your life, there's like a
Mhm.
spotlight on them. It's like that one person at that party, like Zabava or whatever, even you guys call it, like that's gonna say something to you when you're just already feeling so shit about yourself. Like,
Yeah.
how did that start to sort of pick away at you as you sort of got
Yeah.
into your 20s?
Yeah, and it was never, like, inside, like, my immediate family because
Mhm.
I always felt secure there, but it was always, like, the outside, like you said. Not that I was someone would come up to me like, "Oh,
Mhm.
you look like
Mhm.
this," or "You're like this." You just get that
Mhm.
subtle vibes and you're just like kind of like, do I look pretty enough? Am I cute enough? Is my hair thick enough? Is my makeup good enough?
Mhm.
Is my waist tiny enough? Because you just compare yourself to all these beautiful women that are around you, and
I know, who have like long fucking hair and like beautiful,
yeah, like
beautiful,
always long.
and they just look like they're singers on TV who aren't even
Yeah,
singing in reality, and you're just like,
I
I
know.
don't know if I look like that.
Exactly. And then you see them in real life, and then you see people like on TV, and you're like, well, these are the actors and the models, and you're like, what the heck? Like, I don't look like any of these people. And it
Yeah.
just kind of like fucks up with your mind.
Mm.
And you're just like, don't know what to do. You start doing like little diets and stuff,
Mm.
and you just start doing like, okay, maybe if I lose a little bit of weight here, do this and do this like really crazy diet. And it never helps. Those beer diets, like they never
Yeah.
really help. And because I was an athlete in high school, I still kind of stayed in shape in a way. But when I went to college, I was like, I really want to know more about the body. Like, how does the body work? Why is it that I feel so stuck in my body? Like I don't understand it.
Mhm.
And that kind of like stemmed from like my body image issues and then like not knowing. how to eat properly, by maybe my hormone issues and all that stuff. So I went to study biochemistry at the University of Detroit Mercy. I got my 4-year degree in biochemistry. And I graduated and I was like, okay, what now? What can I do with this science degree? And somehow I saw this thing about nutrition and I was like, that's it. It just like clicked in my mind that I needed to do something in nutrition and that I could help people in that way because I was always so lost in my own nutrition and my own health. Like, how can I fix myself and then hopefully fix other people? So I went into dietetics, got into the program, did a 2-year program for dietetics and nutrition, did that, learned a lot, graduated. It was like a coordinated program. So I did an internship and studying, learning at the same time, which was great because I'm like, I already have done college. I don't want to go another 4 years, like let's speed up the process.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I became a dietitian and I feel like I learned so much about how the body works, the biochemistry, and like how to really nourish myself. And I just never looked back. And I have always like, I've never went on a diet since. I never went on crazy fads. I just always like found like a good balance for myself. And like I've always felt so much better that way. And then just working, got a job as a dietitian and yeah, it just kind of went from there. And I've been a dietitian for about like 10 years now. So it's been like a little while.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a long time, like as well. And honestly, knowledge is power. And once you have that knowledge, it really does empower you to make better decisions or better choices. Like without that, you don't really, how would you even know where to start? So what was your sort of, like, what made you go from working in institutions and aged cares and schools and things like that? What made you go from working in that industry to working for yourself?
Well, I always had like this entrepreneurial like spirit, even in
Mm,
schooling. Like a lot of classes I took were entrepreneurial based in the nutrition field. And I just always felt like I wanted to do something for myself. And I just like to, I always liked also social media at the time. I was, I'm a millennial. So like Facebook, started up around like college years and like Instagram like kind of started and I was like, "Oh, this is fun." Before that was like MySpace, if you guys know
mm.
MySpace, like that was
Oh
jam.
yeah. Oh yeah. I had little raindrops coming down from my account and a
I'm like
scan in the
coding
background.
stuff. I'm like, "Okay, what can I code today?" Like yeah, so I just it was just something I enjoyed, like kind of like social media, posting stuff and like
Mm,
talking about different things. And I was like, I always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
yeah.
One day work for myself, but
Yeah. And we are
you
very
know,
creative people by nature too. Like
I know,
think,
yeah.
if you see the amount of times that, your dad or your family, like you've had to pivot in your life, it does make you think outside the square and it does make you think like, how
Yeah,
can I do
it
this? How can
does.
I go there? How can I like, even, yeah, you're only 2 years old, but still it's like, you still feel energy around you. You still hear your parents' stories, like all that impacts the way we live our life and the decisions
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
make. And as much as we think, oh, we've had this quintessential nice upbringing, you'll never be like that American child, or I'll never be like that Australian child. Like, even if you
Mm.
did grow up there for so many years, there's always
Oh
that
my gosh.
separation of difference too. Like, so what would you say, like when you worked in aged cares and you worked in schools, predominantly obviously with the older people, because you're seeing them at a later stage, maybe in their life, what were some of the common illnesses, I guess, you were coming across and why?
Yeah. So I worked in nursing homes, basically in rehab centers and like a little bit in hospitals. So I've seen like the sickest people and uh the all the diseases that you can imagine that somebody could have. And it just like dawned on me like, wow, many of these diseases are like preventable.
Mm,
It depends on like how your diet is, your lifestyle, you know, diabetes, heart disease. Like these are things that you can kind of control with diet and lifestyle. And I was like, why are these so many people sick in
mm,
America? Like, why is this so prevalent? And it just kind of like opened up my eyes of how like I feel like it's so different like America versus like Europe, where the American standard is kind of like so low for people. Like their diet is just like so fast food, junk food, um, convenience foods. And then in Europe, it's like we learn about cooking, like how to make things from scratch. Like we had to learn, and we were like, many of us are farmers that live there
mm,
or that used to live there. It's like we just really learned more about how to cook and, you know, how to grow food. And then you come here, it's like nobody knows what is what. And that kind of just open.
Do you think it's also the lifestyle factor, like the economy that people live in? Like, do you think that's a big contributor? You know, because you're living in such a faster pace. Like, yes, there's more opportunity, but with more opportunity, there's a cost to everything. So sort of everyone's burning the candle at both ends, because I know even here life is so much more fast paced, which contributes to the choices that you make as well. Like, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to be cooking sarma for the next 6 hours, you know, on a given day. So how much do you think those factors influence also what's available to us and then what we choose to put in our mouth?
A huge part of it. Because, you know, overworked, overstressed. So you're in your car a lot. There's a lot of driving here. I even know for myself, for like many years, I was just like constantly in my car, and I'm like, I have no time to eat. When I go home, I'm just gonna go to drive through and eat something, you know, quick and just call it a day and move on with my life. So yeah, definitely very prevalent. And it's just sad because it's kind of like, it's kind of a tricky thing because first of all, there's like, I mean, I don't know how like how much we want to get into like all of this like
Oh, let's get into the nitty gritty, like right into it.
I mean, over the years, like I've just come to different realizations. I always used to say like, you know, moderate everything in moderation is fine, or just like eat a little bit, you know, go to a fast food place like twice a week or once a week, whatever, it's fine. Like it's you're still eating healthy throughout the day or like throughout the week, you know. But then I'm like, what is moderation? Like how much is too much and how much is moderate, you know? And then I realized growing up and seeing all these commercials and this programming for like us wanting to consume sugary products, Pepsi, you know, Coke, fast food. It's like bombarded on us since we were like born. We put on the TV and it's like these commercials, eat this, eat that. And then the opposite spectrum is like, then they tell you to eat all this junk food. They cause, you know, the problem, I say. And then on the other end, there's like, okay, here's diet culture coming in now to swoop in and save the day because you guys feel like crap. You guys feel like shit because you're eating all this food and now you need a solution. And I got your solution. Here's a diet culture. And here's your extreme diet. Here's these models and these celebrities holding a Pepsi can, drinking. They're like, yeah, I like drinking. And then 2 days later, they're like, oh, I'm on this diet. It's the cayenne pepper cleanse, whatever, like
So
lemonade diet.
how did you feel like then coming in at the end of someone's, like not at the end, but coming in, I guess, like this problem being created, obviously that wasn't created by you or even really by the person as such, because it's so subconscious. You think you're picking up that food like because you want it, but really in reality, you've watched that ad 50 times before you've ordered that burger or before you've had that, you know, those chips. So sort of how did it feel for you then coming in, I guess, at such a later stage with people when they're already so sick? What was like the success rate, I guess, like to see, what was the sort of people's reactions when you would come to them and be like, well, this is, you know, here it is on a paper. Like how often will that actually work?
Well, it's hard with the older population because they're at a point like they just want to enjoy life at a certain point. I mean, they're gonna try to do like certain things to help them. Like, you know, you want to give them a good amount of protein, got some vitamins, minerals to help their body stay strong. But at a certain point, they're just like, they're set in their ways. It's kind of hard at that age to really change. So that's why it's important to do it before you get to that stage and make those changes before. And that's what kind of I realized. Like, once you're like 70, 50, you know, even 50, like 50, 60, 70, 80, like it's kind of hard. It's a lot harder to make those changes. 20, 30, 40, it's gonna be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Because you have so much more room to like grow and change and
Correct.
adjust your ways. But once you hit a certain stage in your life, you're just like, well, I just want to enjoy life.
You
Like,
mean like my grandfather, like my dear doctor? It was like, even
yeah.
I'm not allowed, I can't eat bread, I can't eat this, I can't eat cakes, I can't. He's like, well, what's left? What's left? And I remember someone told him he needed to eat like oats or something in the morning for breakfast. And poor him and Baba, poor things, like they were like older and, you know, they're like, yeah, struggling with their health. And I'm like literally coming to the house and he's eating oats that he's put, I don't know how much milk in. The ratio was totally off. Like the oats were swimming in the bowl and then he gets sugar and he puts it in as well.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
know.
like, see, it's healthy. Like, it's healthy. And I'm just like, oh, dude, like, I don't actually, it's so hard to, convey.
But it's also when you get older, your taste buds do change. So like you're wearing and tearing, your body's wearing and tearing, your senses are getting a little bit lower. So your smell, your taste, they're going to be a little bit on the low end. So you need a little bit more heightened flavor. So you need more, actually more sugar to taste something. And if it doesn't taste good, why were you going to eat it, right?
Is that why we
So
salt everything? Leonita, is that why? Like, oh, this just, yeah. My husband's like, why do you put salt? Like, straight over, so you've even eaten the soup, you add in a bit of salt and pepper. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, it's already
yeah,
salty enough. I'm like, I don't know. And how much does
yeah, I mean,
culture play part in all of that? Like,
yeah,
as well,
very,
because my husband
yeah,
barely salts anything, really. So,
seriously, friend.
oh, well, look, his family's Italian, so, but he's grown up here his whole life, right? So, I mean, he just, but yeah, I believe in seasonings, and even with my mum, she's like, oh, put in a teaspoon, no ratios. They just cook with this feeling, right? So
Yeah.
how much does culture play part as well in the way that we eat?
Oh, huge, huge. You look at like Arabic cultures or like Indian cultures, they have tons of seasonings and spices that they use. That for me, I would be like, whoa, like this is like very high, like this is like too much. But they're used to that because that's what all their foods are made to be, having these spices and these aromas, and you can smell it like literally a mile away. But for them, it's like nothing. They feel like it's not spicy enough. There needs a little bit more. So
Yeah.
definitely culture plays a huge part of it. And, your ethnic cuisine is going to be a big part of it.
And how it always like eat, 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 like in our cultures. How much like does that affect, like, say, at what stage, like, because I never grew up with eating complexes. Like, it was always just like, here's food, you eat. If you don't like it, you don't. If you don't like the onion, oh well, tough fucking luck, right? Like, you just need to. And if you're out there making a sandwich, mum's like cracking the shits at you. What are you doing? Get out of the fucking kitchen, because the meal's made. If you want to eat, so it was always like
Yeah.
domate, like made from scratch. But how do we? Like you say, it's always better to make it from scratch, obviously. But if I'm making a burger and fries, like, and I'm not getting it fast food, like, how does one know how much is too much? How often? Like, where do you start to sort of, does that just depend on each single person? Obviously, you can't throw a blanket over everyone.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to be individualized because even me, like compared to my husband, I like to compare myself to my husband because he's like just eats whatever he wants whenever he wants. He has like no second thought to it. Unlike me, I'm always thinking like, okay, what did I eat today? Like, how did I feel? How did that make me feel? So I'm very more mindful and like more like intuitive about like how certain meals make me feel and how my body is feeling afterwards. So, for me, eating, let's say, McDonald's or whatever, I could feel it right away. And I'll be like, oh, I feel like, oh, this is too much for me. I cannot do this for like months. I'm like over it. Like for him, he'll be like, he'll eat it and he'll be like, oh, I'm fine. He'll eat it again the next day and the next day. So like it just depends on like how you're feeling. But if you just like for a blanket statement, you definitely don't want to do it like every day. You don't want to eat like we want to have a balance of where you're like including a good quality protein, good quality vegetable, good quality fruits, some grains and starchy vegetables like potatoes. Like if you're having a majority of those foods, and then let's say you do eat out, or you're eating a little bit more of those like processed foods, once in a while, like it's perfectly okay. But you also just have to listen to your body. And if one person, like my husband, can eat, a cake every day, he like is stick thin and he has like no issues. But if I did that,
Yeah.
I know that I would really.
But he also doesn't get his period every month. Like, he's also
Exactly.
not a woman.
Like
So,
his
you know what I mean?
hormones are not changing constantly.
Yeah.
Like men's, they're kind of just always in this straight line of
Yeah.
like their hormones. So it's different with women. And I think obviously women are the ones that are always looking for like the next diet or the next, like, how do I lose this many pounds? And what do I do?
Well, there's more pressure. There's more pressure on us to look a certain way. So how does that impact, mothers, I guess, first time mums or second or three, how many kids they have, how, those hormonal changes that happen and emotional changes that happen on a mental and physical, emotional, spiritual level. Like, I remember as well, my whole life, never had issues with weight ever, literally never ever. Have my son end up in emergency C-section, come home, I'm a fucking mess. Like, literally, I'm not able to, like, I'm not even hungry. it was the first time in my life where I actually didn't even have an appetite, but my weight was skyrocketing because I was barely eating, barely hydrating, not because I didn't want to, but obviously because newborn baby. And as well, he was unwell, then I got unwell, there was infections and all sorts of things happening. So where can, like, I guess a new mum, even a mum who has a couple of kids or 3 kids, where can that person start
Mm.
to sort of look, where do you even start then when you don't have an appetite? Because I think there's so much misconception around we eat too much, but I actually think we don't eat enough and we don't eat variety because it's such a confusing thing for people. They just think like, oh, you're big, you must eat a lot. It's like, no, it's the opposite. I actually ate more when I was skinny than, let's say, after I had my son. So for someone who's postpartum, I guess we'll to narrow it down because I do want to sort of focus more on women too at this stage and how to help them. Yeah, just start. How do they start looking after themselves when it comes to that?
Yeah, so I mean, I had just had a baby 5 months ago, and it was also a C-section. So I blew up, like I gained like actually 20 pounds right after it because I was swollen, like the water weight, and I was like in shock. I was like, this never happened to me. This is my third. And I was like, how did I gain all this water weight? And I was like freaking out, literally freaking out. My legs were like
Yeah.
elephants, like they're humongous. And coming home, obviously with the newborn, you're just like all over the place, no sleep. You're trying to breastfeed and you're just like crazy. And one thing I will say is if you're able to like get help, have somebody there to help you, like at least for that first week, first 1 to 2 weeks, because that really helped me. I had my mom here, and even though like I didn't have appetite, she like kind of like forced to kind of eat, and she was like, I made you soup, I made you eggs, I made you, this. And that helped me this time around. But also with my background in nutrition and like diet, I knew like I had to really make an effort to try to include those foods and also really hydrate my body properly because I was swollen. My body was, if I drank too much water, it would actually do like the opposite of like
Yeah,
not
correct. Like you're
pushing me
always
out.
thirsty and you're drinking, especially when you're breastfeeding. And then, but you're like, you're still thirsty though. You've drank
Mhm.
all this water. So when you say properly
Yeah.
hydrate, what does that mean?
So when you're like that, your body is losing a lot of minerals. So if you're not replacing those minerals and those electrolytes back into your body, you're just gonna keep like swelling up, keep having that inflammation, even though you're drinking water. Water is good to like flush things out, but it's not being absorbed properly by your cells. And it only will be absorbed if you have like potassium minerals like potassium, magnesium, sodium, and just like good electrolyte balance. And what I did this time around, which was the first time I actually did this, because I was like, I need to do something a little bit more than just drink water. And I found that coconut water was like my lifesaver. Lifesaver. Because
Wow.
coconut water has like natural potassium and magnesium in it.
Mhm.
And then I also did like mineral cocktails where it's like you do an orange juice or like a lemon or lime juice, and then you do the coconut water, and then you even sprinkle a little bit of like sea salt, and you mix that up, and that really hydrates your body and helps you like even helps your adrenal glands to get back into like a good state because their adrenal glands release cortisol, and cortisol is what's causing us to like have this like crazy like thing. We're not sleeping well, our cortisol levels are really high. So mineral cocktail drinks like the coconut water with the juice, usually like orange or like lemon or lime juice, and then a little bit of salt. That will like save your life.
Wow.
It
Wow.
will
That's
save your
amazing.
life.
So can you do that even if you're not postpartum? Like even if you just feel like you're
Yeah.
really like
Yeah.
sort of bloated and
Mhm.
sluggish, like can you see if you feel like you're just missing
Mhm.
those, yeah, like
Yeah.
electrolytes? Like I read somewhere someone said drink Gatorade. I don't know where I saw that in some bloody forum and I just thought, really? Gatorade? Like I thought this is like I don't know. But it's like good
I
to know
mean,
that.
Gatorade does have like those electrolytes in it, but it also has like a lot of like, to me, a little bit too much sugar and just like unnecessary colors and dyes
Mm.
um, that I feel are not necessary. but you could do that too if you really like
So
Gatorade.
that's
But
amazing.
I
So you
like the
can like
coconut water. That's like my like jam right now.
the coconut water by itself, or you can mix it with a
We
juice.
could do it by
Yeah.
ourselves. I
Okay.
did
Yeah.
it by myself, but then there were times where I just mixed it up a little just to give me a little more boost. But
Yeah.
even by itself, it's perfectly good. Um, yeah.
That because even my mum, even my mum, she was always
And
like
then like
with
also
the
warm,
salt.
like yeah, so a little bit of salt, not a lot, like
Yeah.
a little bit, but just
Yeah.
kind of helps keep everything in balance a little bit better. And then like soups, stews, you need warm food, warm stuff in your body postpartum. It's like essential, a lot of protein because you're healing, right? You literally like we're bleeding, you need iron. So you need all these things to really get your body back into a healing state. Hydrating, those protein foods, warm foods, soups, stews, things like that, beef. Um, so obviously some
Yeah.
vegetables and
Yeah.
fruits too, like whatever. But if you
Yeah.
could get those things first,
Yeah.
if you don't have appetite, just do like a little bit of soups
Yeah.
here and there.
And
Like
is
that
it
would
better?
help a
Is it
lot.
better that everything is cooked? Like, so then if you are doing vegetables, is it better that they're warm? Like, is it better
It
that
does
things are
help.
warm?
It is better to be warm. Like
Yeah.
it's been shown like a holistic route. Warm food, especially during healing, is like a lot better than just like raw fruits or like raw vegetables and stuff. It's better to cook them. It just absorbs a little bit easier in the gut and your system just
Yeah.
feels better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what I've been told a lot. Yeah. Like always. And even when you eat a soup, you always feel so much better. You just feel like, oh, like it's just, food for the soul, isn't it? So what is the repercussions of, I guess, ignoring your health for too long? So then if you are in that from that, because I feel like it can really drag out, like if you don't pay attention to your body, how does one even start to be in sync with that, with their body? Usually people don't realize until it's too late or until, they've hit a breaking point. Yeah. Sorry. Oh my God, what's going on? But yeah, how does someone get to that point, I guess, where they feel like, shit, I need help. I need to make changes. And because it can seem so overwhelming.
I think people hit their breaking point when they hit it.
Mm.
When they're like, having a lot of symptoms, like they have no energy, they're like constantly fatigued. Maybe they have gut issues like, bloating, um, can't go to the bathroom or like going to the bathroom too much or like massive headaches, migraines, skin issues. That's when people start really taking notice because your body's like, look at me. They're like, look at me. You're like, something's going on. And our body is really great at communicating with us if we actually listen to it. So if you notice like your hair's falling out and you're getting, a lot of acne or like a lot of like blemishes and your skin is starting to change, like you got a lot of rashes or whatever, headaches, weight changes, like this is our body telling us that something's like going on that we need to like, hey, listen up. But people just sometimes brush it off or they just think like, oh, it's nothing and this is normal. A lot of people say like it's normal, it's just life. And a lot of times doctors will even tell you like, oh, it's just normal part of life. There's nothing you need to do. And then they just get gaslit of what's happening to them. And that's when they keep suffering and suffering until it like, gets too late. And now you've developed something like kind of disease or disorder. And then that's it. And then you just have to
That's
try
how
to manage
sicknesses
that.
come about, right? Like that's how, then major
Yeah.
things like it gets like
And then
that.
also maybe you're like you're like, I'm too busy to go to the doctor. I'm too busy to do this. And that's the whole lifestyle thing. Like you're not slowing down. You're just always constantly on the go and just not taking care of yourself in that way. Like not sleeping good because sleep is super important. If you're not sleeping good, managing your stressors. And then when you don't do those two, it's highly likely that your food choices are going to be poor too, because
Correct.
it's just kind of like a trickle effect.
Yes, because
at
it's like
that
you
point.
can be eating the quote unquote right things, but if your lifestyle is not in sync with what you're eating, like, because I know like I can be eating something that's good, but if I'm eating it when I'm standing because I'm in a rush or something, like versus I'm sitting down and eating my meal, or even the way I'm drinking a glass of water, I'm either chugging it down because I'm running around or like just sitting down and drinking that. So how important is it for those two things to marry up?
So important because we have like our sympathetic nervous system and then our parasympathetic nervous system. When we're on like high, we're like moving, we're doing our nervous system, our everything, our hormones, everything goes to like our actions. So it goes away from our digestion. So if we're like moving and doing stuff and eating, our digestion is not working because we're not sitting still. So, but when you sit down at a table and you're you're still and you're eating, it's like the sympathetic parasympathetic mode. You're just like your nervous system slows down and everything, all the nutrients, all the like all the neurons and stuff are going down to your gut, and they're like, okay, we're in a calm state, we're relaxed. Now we can focus on our digestion process, and then now you're able to digest your foods properly because
Correct.
you slowed down, and
And
you're not
did
going to
you
have heartburn.
did
You're
you
not going to
find
like
like
have these.
did you find with your community that like or maybe even the older people you worked with, like the type of like I guess clients you had, did you find there was a difference between let's say like Americans with the things they were getting sick with and then let's say your Albanian community? Was there like a common thread in your community, maybe of people who were getting sick or getting certain illnesses maybe that were more likely? Because I know when you're in that survival mode, and I speak from experience, when you're in that survival mode, like you don't even actually realize for so many years you are in survival mode. That's like number
Mhm.
one. Then as
Especially
your
coming to a different country and
well, because your survival is like, yeah, you have to. It's like what we were saying before, like sink or swim. So that obviously that it impacts everything. And then because you ask in your whole life, you're like, whatever, it's not really affecting me, but it is affecting you on a cellular level. So then
Mhm.
when you become a mother and it's a complete halt, like you literally slow right down. There's nothing to slow you down like a baby and speed you up at the same
Yeah,
time. And I remember
exactly.
just sitting there, like just sitting there with this newborn, like rocking on the chair. And it was the first time in my whole entire life I had actually just sat in a chair for like, I
Mm.
don't know how many hours, just feeding and this and that. And I was just like, whoa. And then I just realized that the way I had been living my life wasn't really productive or good for me or healthy for me. So how much does that play a part as well with obviously the clients you have now and the mums that come to you? What's that common
Yeah.
thread like, or where you think, wow, like you saw where it all started to where it is now?
That's so true. Oh my gosh. Because it does take time for your body to, like, your body is pretty resilient. Like, it could take a lot of hits and, function at a pretty high level. So it could take like years where you think, like, oh, I've been fine, I'm fine. And then a lot of times what happens with pregnancy, it's a traumatic thing. It's like a trauma on your body, the birth and then the postpartum. Sometimes it could even alter your genes. So it could trigger something in your system that was like um buried, but there just takes like one trauma or one thing to like adjust that gene and
Wow.
now it's triggered. And that's how a lot of autoimmune diseases happen. And that's due to like the inflammation that has developed over time. And then all of a sudden it's like that big hammer that just like popped it out.
It lays
Um,
dormant and then it just
yes,
like goes,
yes.
come in, like literally
Yeah.
like a jack in the box. Like I've been here all along, actually.
And
And
that's
that's
why a lot
what,
of yeah, and a lot of women postpartum develop a lot of autoimmune diseases because your body just went through a traumatic event of giving birth or whatever, any situation that you were in, whether natural or, C-section, which is traumatic too. And your just hormones are all over the place. Your estrogen is high, your progesterone
Mhm.
is low, and everything is just kind of blah. And it could trigger a genetic
Yes,
change, and now your body's attacking itself,
gotcha.
Um, and it could be due to like those many, many, many years of how you treated your body before, like maybe the way you're eating, your environment, and your stressors, all that stuff just like kind of adds up over time. And now all of a sudden it's
Mm,
like it pops. Doesn't happen for everybody, but it does happen. And unfortunately, it's happening more and more.
yes.
Um,
Why do you think
'cau-
so? Why? Why? Like, do you think we're getting better at diagnosing? Like, do you think we're getting better at screening? Or do you think
mm,
now it's just become this common thing? Like, what? Yeah, because Hashimoto's like as well, that you talk about
it's
your own
it.
experience on your page, like as
Mhm.
well. How does one sort of know, okay, I just need to clean up a little bit and slow down and I just sort of need
Mhm.
to redirect myself and my health to, okay, I need to take this further. So is it when
Yeah.
you've made those changes then really not much changes? And then what do you do? Like you go to
It's
a
funny
GP,
because
you,
like it's funny because I thought that I was pretty dang healthy for like the last 10 years of my life, at least for the 10
Mm,
years. Because I was like, that was when I was a dietitian, right? And I knew what to do and knew what to eat. And I don't know, like it just maybe the years before that, the way I was eating, I was like really, I, you know, maybe I congested my liver a lot from like all the sugary products that I would eat and all. I don't know like exactly. Not there's no like science to say like it was exactly this thing.
Mhm.
Um, but definitely the trauma of pregnancy and stress, triggered that for me. Um, I feel like a lot of women just go undiagnosed because they
Mm.
think like, oh, I have anxiety, I have depression. I just feel like crap and that's just life. I'm gonna move on and just this is how I'm gonna live for the rest
Yes,
of my life.
we accept the fact that we're meant to feel like shit forever as an
Yeah.
as our narrative. It's like, well, it's meant to hurt. You're meant to be in pain, and people
Yeah.
just normalize. Like that's what I mean. Society normalizes that for women so much. Like, oh
Yeah.
well, it was hard for all of us. Sort of suck it up. So
Mhm.
you just think, okay, I'm meant to feel like shit forever, right? So
Mhm.
how much does that narrative play into us also not getting help and moving
Mhm.
forward and trying, I guess, get a solution?
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. And I think a lot of the medical industry, like they sometimes say that too, like, oh, it just, it is part of the life, it's part of postpartum or it's part of getting
Mm.
old. And that's just normal. And there is not a lot of testing done. So a lot of people are now see now more people are advocating and more asking more questions. Like for me personally, like I had a science background and I thought to myself, like, this is not normal the way I was feeling, these symptoms that I'm having. Like, I went in and asked those questions. My
Mhm.
doctor didn't be like, oh, what do you feel? Like, I was like Googling, I was researching, I was like, this is not normal. Like, what could I do? Like, what do I know? And that's how I found out that I had this issue. And I'm sure 90% of women are not going to go and look up these things
Mhm.
and like see why they're having this. But because I had that science background and I kind of like had a way of thinking
Yes.
about symptoms and like putting two and
Yeah.
two together, I was able to ask for my doctor. I'm like, I need this, I need this, I need you to ask this, I need you to do this test for me. Like, and they were like, oh, I think you're fine, everything's fine. I'm like, no, I want this test. I know something's not right.
Mm.
Test this thing, and that's what it
Because there's only so
gave.
much food can do, right? Like if it's not paired with proper medication, if there is an underlying bigger health issue
Yeah,
like this,
and people are being diagnosed with just like depression or anxiety and getting antidepressants
Mm.
or anti-anxiety medication thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But
yes.
really, what you're having is a mineral deficiency. You're maybe having vitamin deficiencies. You're having just an autoimmune, response. You have certain triggers from foods, or your gut is not at its prime. And these can be helped out with like the diet and lifestyle. And sometimes
Mm.
it's hard to like slow down and you know your mom, you're like, I don't have time to sit down, but you gotta make the time.
Yeah.
You gotta make the time because there is time.
It has
I
to
say
be a
to myself,
non-negotiable. I think it has to become non-negotiable. Like
yeah.
that's what I learned. I remember like when I had this light bulb moment, Vito was born, and I remember thinking, I don't know what happened. I think I got my periods and I was like, whoa, like my first periods with my first child, and I still have to mum through that. And I just remember the realization, like the penny just dropped, and I was like, I cannot afford to get sick ever.
Mm,
Because if I get
mm,
sick, the whole boat goes under. And it's
yeah.
like I had to be so organized and so onto it and so this and so that. But then when your kid gets sick, you get sick, things happen, there's life, there's pressures, whatever. And then, yeah, you tend to just put yourself on that back burner, not necessarily because you want to, but it just unravels so quickly on you that you're like, whoa, how did that just happen? Like, I haven't
Exactly.
eaten a salad in 2 weeks, like literally, or a
I
soup or
know.
anything. You're like,
Mm,
whoa. So I think most people have the good intention,
mhm.
but they just, how much does emotion play part as well with what we put on our plate, like how we feel? Because obviously, if you haven't slept that well, your baby's been keeping you up at night, like your appetite sucks. How do you sort of, obviously,
Thought I heard my kid crying real quick.
oh, no, it's all good. If you have to run, it's your baby.
Yeah, I might have to leave. I think my
We,
husband was like, a baby needs some milk.
we can hear through headphones, man. We're freaking, it's insane. Our hearing is insane. Like,
I
no,
know. You
if
know
you
what?
have to go up and settle in, don't stress, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I probably like another 10 minutes or so for sure.
Okay. Okay. No,
Um,
no, no. It's your baby. That's like number one. But
but
yeah,
when you're like a first time mom and you're like taking a shower and every second you're like hearing screams and
yes.
you're like running out of the shower.
primal instincts are high right now, like, because
And
you're
then
only
I
a few
get
months
sleep
post.
and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, geez, I just hearing things.
No, but I think you've summed it up beautifully. Like, because obviously I don't want to keep you too long. It's your little one. That's like number one. I always say like family's number one over anything. And I appreciate the time you've given as well. How can people begin to work with you? How can they, obviously we've talked about the system a little bit. We've talked about illnesses, emotional health, well-being, and sort of not treating yourself as a, like, it has to be non-negotiable.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it.
and self-kindness, like just giving yourself grace, like, fuck, okay, I ate something bad yesterday, no big deal. I'm not going to, like, you know, drag it out and beat myself up
Yeah.
now and punish myself.
Yeah.
So how can people reach out to you? How can they begin to work with you? And how can you direct them to I just guess better health and feeling
Yeah,
better?
for sure. So my points that I want to just like take away from to give to people is one thing you can do is to start eating mindfully. And doesn't mean like you have to like every meal like just like be like super slow. But if you could just like take a moment, like, okay, stop yourself and be like, okay, what am I gonna, did I eat today? Yes or no? Basic question. Did I eat today? Yes or no? If you did it, okay, what can I eat today to like help me feel nourished? And you always want to do like something that has some kind of protein in it because protein is king. It's like it helps our cells regenerate, our muscles, helps a lot of the um, enzymes in our body to like do functions. So protein, it could be anything. It could be eggs, meat, chicken, um, what else? Like beans, things like that. Just whatever you could find in your house, like salmons, things like that. So, and then some kind of vegetable. Always have like a vegetable source. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay, half your plate, some kind of vegetable. All right. And then you got your grains. You could do like potato or like starchy vegetables, potatoes, rice, grains, and just like a smaller portion. So that way everything is like a little bit more balanced. And then add some flavor to it, some sauces. You don't have to like be bland to be healthy. You can still have like a lot of taste and flavors. And just like be mindful, like we said, taking the time, slow it down just a little bit. Obviously, not every day is going to be like slow down. We're a freaking mom. We just got to go on the go. But just being mindful of it and just make sure you're hydrated and just taking those little times, like you said, non negotiables like hydration, feeding yourself, just so you can have the energy to do things around your house, to do things and take care of your kids. Um, and then just feel better and, do those minerals and get your hydration properly in there. And yeah, and as far as working with me, I have one-on-one coaching sessions that I do. It's like usually like a 1 month or 3 month package. I recommend a 3 month because the 1 month package is kind of just like you can only do so much in 1 month, but if you have like more time together, you could really make those changes and really see that success and that progress that you want in your health. And I take clients of all, reasonings, whether you want to lose a weight in a healthy way or you have an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's, or Graves' disease or any of these things where you have like gut issues like IBS, Crohn's disease, things like that, that I could really help hone in on what you really need to do and be like very strategic about it and what works specifically for you because you could go online and find like basic meal plans or like basic things, but how are you gonna know exactly what you need and have like that support and that guidance? And for me personally, I can't do things alone. I need support. Even when I got my Hashimoto's diagnosis, I went out and looked for support from, colleagues of mine, like dietitians. And I'm like, hey, I really need your help on this. Like, can you please help
Yes.
me? And even though I know what to do, like I still needed that guidance. And I think no one should go it alone if you're struggling with your health. So always reach out for me. I do one-on-ones. I'm working on like a membership program right now. And then you can find me on my Instagram page. It's at Nita Nutrition, NITA Nutrition. And then I have a TikTok as well. Same handle. And then my website is where all my information is. We're going to talk about the services. I also have a blog on there, which I'm trying to get more updated on. And that's just www.nitanutrition.com. And yeah, that's where you can find me if you want to connect and work together. I also have that podcast, which hopefully I can get back into, which I do really want to get back into my BOTA podcast, BOTA podcast.
Yes, please. I'd love to listen to your episode. You're doing amazing work, honestly. Like 3 kids, passion project. It's like a working, like it's, I know how much time it all takes, like being a creative person and having all these things, up in the air and managing it all. And so I just want to tip my hat off to you. Honestly, it's awesome. And I encourage anybody to get in touch with you, definitely, because I wish I knew you 4 years ago, for example. I mean, not too late now either, but that resource wasn't there, especially working with somebody online within our community. I think it's awesome. Like, because if you can't find somebody in your neighborhood, go out and search online, because there's no reason why you should be suffering with low iron for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, do you know what I mean? The whole
That
iron
what
thing.
happened to you?
Oh, the whole iron thing. It's like, I feel like every single woman I know that's out there just accepts it as a thing. So I feel like you can really point people in the right direction. I mean, we just scratched the surface. There's like a whole other conversation to be had. But I'm grateful.
From like this to that.
No, honestly, but I'm just grateful for the time that you've dedicated and given. And I just encourage really, really any women that are listening, even men or partners, to get in touch with you, because there's no reason why you shouldn't have a good quality life. And you shouldn't take that as your quota just to feel like shit every day, to wake up and go, oh, well, I just that's part of my life. That's part of life. So I want to, just applaud you for the wonderful work you're doing. And just tell your wonderful WhatsApp podcast community. Can't wait to listen to more episodes. And your 3 little babies, go run, do what you need to do. And I can't wait to talk again. And I'll definitely share all of your handles as well in the show notes. So
thank you so much, Ivana. This was so great. It's great talking to you. You're so sweet. You're so amazing, fun. And hopefully we could talk again, soon. And maybe we could have you on my
yes, I want to pick your brain. Very long, that's what I like to ask so many questions. But this is the thing. This is what us Europeans do. We can talk for hours, but not when there's children involved. To put in perspective, there's like a 18-hour time difference between us.
Yeah.
So I think we've done really, really well. So thank you so much, Leonita. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is fun.
So that was the episode. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And as ever, if you did, please consider sharing it with your loved ones and leaving me a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It really does make a difference to the number of Balkan sisters that we can reach with the brilliant wisdom that my guests and I share. Thanks for being here. I doviđenja.